Hello, hockey fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. Thank you for tuning in. A special edition here. We've got a guest with us. Jon, for those who may not know who's sitting in front of them right now, how about you introduce our guest?
Well, we are very honored to have Coach Mike Gabinet here, the coach of the team that we obsess over and that we follow every season, the Omaha Mavericks. Coach Gabinet is starting his 9th season as head coach for UNO. He was a freshman on the UNO hockey team 25 years ago. He played 8 seasons of professional hockey, and he is from Edmonton, Alberta. Coach, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
So, yeah, thank you for coming. I'm sure all of our fans are really eager to hear kind of what you have to say. Jon, do you want to kick us off with a couple questions here?
Let's go back in time a little bit to when you were recruited by UNO. What was your recruitment process like, and how did you end up choosing UNO as your school?
Yeah, like you mentioned, that's quite a long time ago now. It does fly by fast. So I got recruited out of the AJHL. I was playing in Lloydminster at the time, which was about 2.5 hours east of Edmonton. And I got recruited by David Quinn, who was the defenseman coach here for quite a few years. So he kind of watched me play in the Alberta Junior Hockey League there and got recruited by him. And then obviously came on a fly down here for a visit and really kind of just fell in love with the city. And at the time, I was a big football player as well, too. And I guess it was, 2000 that I got recruited. So Nebraska was a really popular brand name in football as well. So I just kind of obviously knew about Nebraska and had some kind of brand recognition just from their football program, obviously down in Lincoln. And then came on the visit and obviously really liked the Civic Auditorium in the city of Omaha and meeting all the players and Coach Kemp and the rest of the staff. And kind of ultimately chose to come to Omaha, which is a decision I'm fondly look back on and really glad I made it.
Yeah, it's great that you ended up coming. You played quarterback, right?
Yep.
Did you ever consider pursuing football as your sports career instead of hockey?
Absolutely. Yeah, I kind of didn't really get maybe to the upper echelon of hockey until I was older. Really until that probably last year of my midget year. I always had played both sports growing up. My father was a big time football guy, never played hockey. And then my mom's dad, my grandfather, was a big hockey guy. So I really grew up with both sports as a passion of mine and really wanted to play my senior year in high school. We'd had really successful campaigns previously in high school. We hadn't lost a game all of my whole career there, right up until my last game I played. So I really wanted to keep playing football, and so did that. But then ultimately had a really good midget AAA season there, and got pretty heavily recruited to play junior hockey at different locations, and chose Lloydminster. And then a couple months later, was getting kind of recruited by different colleges as well. So hockey kind of went quickly there, and was always enjoyed playing it. Always worked hard at it, but definitely had my focus on 2 sports there for a long time growing up.
You mentioned your grandfather. And you've mentioned in other interviews that he's been one of your biggest influences. Is there something specific that you can remember that you've learned from him?
Yeah, I always kind of say, first off, he was just Gramps to me. I think that kind of goes to show that, sometimes you got to separate your work and your family life a little bit. Because I definitely, when I think about him, first and foremost thing that pops in my brain is probably non-hockey related things of just all the fun I had with him and my grandma and just the family in general. But just also as I got older and, obviously started playing hockey at a higher level and started to get a lot of advice and tapping into his brain a little bit, he just came to the realization and understanding that he had of the game and just his knowledge base. And I've been really fortunate in my coaching career too, to be mentored by some of his peers too, that he kind of helped along the way as well too. And just even, at least once a summer, I go down to the storage room and pull out all his old papers and look through it. And it's a lot of stuff that's relevant in today's game, which I think says a lot of just how ahead of the game he was back in the day. So, yeah, I learned a ton from him and just always really appreciated him as a grandfather and a human being. I think he's kind of the modern coach, right? I think he it was always I remember Ken Hitchcock saying it was always unbelievable how hard his team plays. And, but he was still that person that could communicate with his staff and players and, do it in a respectful manner. That's, I think, so important in today's age where players have so much power now. You really have to develop that relationship with the players. And he did a tremendous job of that. So a guy I really look fondly upon when I think about him for sure.
Yeah, definitely a legend up there in Alberta and in hockey, and he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So very, very cool. And this year, you've got some guys on the team who are from the University of Alberta. Is that a special thing? The rink there is named after your grandfather. Is it neat to have some of those guys on the team this season?
Yeah, again, obviously it was a little bit of a tough situation that, you don't want to pull guys away from a program, but it became pretty evident early on, when this rule change was coming, those guys were playing NCAA hockey. That was, whether it was their advisors or themselves, they said they're making the jump to NCAA, and then ultimately shifted to try to getting them to Omaha and getting them to choose us and play for us. And obviously I just think that program does such a good job developing players, and the track record speaks for itself, and just know a lot of those people around that program. So to be able to get those guys to choose us out of the NCAA programs was pretty special to get them here.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I'm just curious, quick from you with this whole transition, because this is the first year for this. There's a lot of teams out there that are kind of going through this. Do we go after those kids or not? And for you, did you feel like it was harder to convince them to make the jump to NCAA, or harder for you to convince them that Omaha was the place to come?
No, I think they had decided they're going NCAA, and then it was just up to us to get them to choose Omaha. I think, again, just with the landscape that you're seeing now with this change of just the number of elite players coming to college hockey all over, I think everybody's looking at this as your kind of best opportunity to play at the highest level, and then ultimately prepare you for the pro level as well. So it quickly shifted to these guys are making the move, and now it's about trying to recruit them over maybe another. I know a couple of guys had 10 schools after them, right, to get them to choose Omaha. So, but yeah, that's part of the recruiting process, about the changing landscape process, and you got to really keep adapting and staying up on it and being proactive as much as you can to try to get the best players possible here.
So what do you think about your recruiting class this season that has come in? You've gotten to see one game with them. How do you think they look?
Yeah, I think as a coach, it's always good to get that first game in. You're probably not as happy as you thought you'd be going into the game. Definitely some things to work on right now. We're battling a little bit of an injury bug right now with guys dropping here kind of just unexpectedly here. So we're just kind of moving guys around to different positions now, trying to teach some of that right now. So, but like I've kind of said from day one, really like this group. Like I think everybody's always a little bit nervous bringing in new players, and even your returning players trying to adapt to the new people coming in, new personnel. And I think that's quickly gone away when you see the quality of individuals that have been brought in from a character standpoint, a work ethic standpoint, just a hunger to develop and get better standpoint. It's really, really merged well together. So I really like it. And it's nice to have a little bit of some freshmen coming in, some sophomores coming in, a senior coming in, a junior coming in. So try to diversify our recruiting class a little bit too. So I think I'm really excited about the group. Love the guys, like just a fun group to coach. They're really working. I think, it'll take time as everything to get used. And I think a lot of guys were playing their first college game there against Air Force, and things are happening fast and lots of people in the building. And so just nice to go through that as a team and hopefully build off that to get ready for Mankato here.
I'm curious with that exhibition game. Usually we play a team from Canada. A lot of times comes down and a university there, and we play them. Since it doesn't count on the score sheets and it doesn't go into the books as an official college hockey game kind of thing. Was your approach or your expectations different going into this, playing another NCAA Division I team, or was it kind of just business as usual? You were looking for the same kinds of things that you look for every year.
Yeah, I think I want to play everybody. You probably see more equal ice times in an exhibition game. You're rotating through everybody, not as worried about maybe the game situation as you normally would be coaching a game that counts. So it's nice to give everybody that chance to play, that experience of playing. I really like the fact we can play an NCAA team now in an exhibition game, especially a team like Air Force that plays so hard and they skate so well and they're so physical. And And I think that's really nice to get that kind of real life test early on. And I think playing the Canadian teams is just as good too. I would prefer, if I could change a rule in college hockey, I'd prefer just maybe one or two more exhibition games. I think it's always nice to see your guys play and let maybe some guys that maybe aren't as high in the lineup get an opportunity to play and develop and get some real life feedback in their game. So I enjoy the exhibition games to see everybody play and to get some real feedback from the games.
It's interesting. I heard a couple people tell me leaving Baxter Arena after they came up to me and asked me, "Is there any way that this could be the exhibition every year is Omaha
Mm-hmm.
versus Air Force with the community here
Well,
and the tie to the Air Force base and that." So I think just a lot of people really enjoyed the exhibition this year that way.
well, for sure. I think it'd be great. I know we're going there next year for the exhibition game, which will be great. And I'd love to get a home and home going back and forth. I know we tried to schedule them non-conference and we couldn't get them to do that. But I think just an exhibition game to, like you said, with just the community we have around here with the Air Force Base right here, I think it's kind of a no-brainer to play those guys. And obviously playing there too is a great venue to play out in Colorado as well. So
Mhm.
hopefully we can kind of just continue this moving forward because they're a great opponent to play.
We talked a little bit about your playing career, obviously 4 years at UNO, and then yeah, 8 years of pro hockey. You were an LA Kings draft pick. What made you decide to make the transition to coaching after your playing career?
Again, I think when you're playing, you're never thinking about coaching. I definitely didn't think about being a coach one day when I was here for my 4 years at UNO. But always enjoyed, I think, maybe just being a bit of a quarterback, just learning the game and studying the game. You had to do a lot of that playing football and kind of just trying to recognize different patterns and different sort of systems, etc. So I always had a kind of a little bit of a hunger to learn. And then when I got playing, unfortunately, I had quite a few injuries my last few years of pro. So I ended up, kind of being up top a lot, watching. And so you start to kind of see the game from up top, and then you get to spend some time with coaches, whether you're doing the rehab skates or so you get to be pretty close with assistant coaches at times. And I was fortunate to be around a few really good ones. And then my one injury I was with Edmonton's organization playing in the American League, and I went back to Edmonton to see the doctors there and had my rehab, etc. And I was kind of done like first thing in the morning after you do all your workouts and stuff. You had a pretty early start to your day. So one of the guys that I knew from the U of A was Serge Lajoie, who was coaching at Nate at the time. And so I just phoned him and said, "Hey, I'm back doing rehab and working out, but I'm pretty free. If I could come volunteer in any way to help out, I'd be happy to help you guys out in any way." And so he was nice enough to let me come out there and kind of be as a volunteer coach on their staff and get to understand the coaching side of things, try to help their players, and allowed me to skate a little bit with them too when I was coming back from my rehab. And then, so I did that for kind of almost a full year. And then sure enough, when I retired, I think maybe a year and a half later, he offered me a full-time assistant job to come back through that experience of volunteering. So I was really fortunate to get into coaching that way, get a taste of it, and also kind of, I think, showcase yourself and your ability to help out on a staff. And then obviously to get a full-time job was great right out of playing. And our son was born, I think I got the job June 1st and our son was born June 4th. So a kind of nice transition there to kind of set up some roots at Edmonton and be home with my wife and family and with my grandparents and all that stuff around right there.
Well, and I remember Nate came in and upset UNO. I think that was the 2014-15 season. We played an exhibition
Yeah.
against Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. But it's very cool. You coached for Serge Lajoie, and his son is on the team now, which I think is
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah, small world. I know I've told this story before, but just obviously knowing Mark as a little guy and just knowing how much Serge got to invest. You could see the time that was spent with their youth hockey there, and just how much time and effort it takes to be a successful player in Alberta there. And yeah, obviously spent a lot of good years with Serge there at Nate, and then he obviously went on to move on to U of A there for a while, and that's when I took over as head coach. So really grateful for my opportunity, not only working with Serge but to Nate as well, just to allow me to get into coaching and get some really good experience at a good level.
I personally think like you and your staff have done an amazing job of taking players out of the portal the last few years.
Mhm.
who didn't really have a high expectation. They weren't
Mhm.
the all-star kids coming out. They were just these gritty guys looking for an opportunity, and then they come here and they just kind of shock people about how
Yeah.
good they are and the performance that they put in. Sam Stang was my example from last season of just a
Mhm.
guy that's a great guy, comes in here and just performs, really, really well. And I'm wondering like how you do that. Like, do you know going into it that you see something that you can kind of build off of? And then also, is there any of these incoming Canadian kids? Because a lot of us don't have a track record watching
Mhm.
those. Are there any of them that you look at and kind of say, like, I think there's more to this kid than people are giving him credit for?
One of the most powerful things you can do, I think, as a human being is believe in somebody. And it's pretty interesting to see what they are capable of doing after you show that belief in them. So I think that's one thing always is to, as a coach, to make sure they know you believe in them. And then second onus is on the athlete to take that personal responsibility for themselves to be the best version of themselves. And so we really try to find those players that want to be players. They want to be that version of themselves, and then believe in them, and then ultimately put them in an environment and give them the tools to help them reach that success. So kind of high support, high expectations, but then you need that high support as well there. So it's Sam's a great example of that, right? We recruited him as a 17-year-old, and he goes to Wisconsin there, and again, right, probably could have played there, but they've, sometimes you're just behind the lineup, similar to what happens with guys here. And we obviously thought he could, with the opportunity he'd get here and the development he'd get here, he'd emerge as a really good player. So that was pretty special to see a guy going, 7 games or whatever he played the year before to almost being on an NCHC All-Star team, right? So it's everybody involved has to do the work, and ultimately you got to give the player a lot of credit for putting the work in to get himself to that level.
Are there any
Well,
of the incoming players you're looking at that are kind of that kind of guy? Or
Yeah, I think all of them. I think all of them. I think there's a bunch of guys that are kind of, even some of the CHL guys that, now have this kind of second runway, a little bit of development. So I think those guys for sure are freshmen there. And again, everybody takes time and everybody's on a bit of a different path and everybody learns a little bit different individually. So you really got to try to kind of get to know everybody and learn their personalities, learn how they learn, right? And you can talk as much, but talking isn't teaching, doing is teaching. And so really, you have to give them that time to develop, and then you got to ultimately be a little bit patient too, which I think is hard as a coach and especially as fans, to be patient, but you have to let these guys kind of go through some of the ups and downs and the waves that come along with developing at a high level. So I really like a bunch of these guys. I think, like you said, some guys you think they'd be a little bit ahead, or oh, this guy's a little bit more ahead than we thought he would. And I think the bottom line is you got to kind of stay even keeled and just keep helping them, keep supporting them, and then keep challenging and making sure those expectations and standards are high. But like I said earlier, making sure that support's high as well.
so, Coach, what is the hardest part of your job that fans don't know about?
Yeah, for me, I'd say
please
in
don't say
this.
talking to us.
Dealing with
Passion,
these guys and their podcast.
a passionate fan base could be challenging at times. That's right. But no, I would say a couple things. I'll give you a couple of things. One is the indecision that comes with the job now. And what I mean by that is there's no playbook, right? You don't know exactly every year who's coming in and who's leaving, and who's signing pro and who's coming back. So I think in the years past it was usually a little bit more predictable, right? You got guys graduating, but nowadays, man, you could have to get 15 newcomers, you could have five. And so I think it's just everybody involved, from the coaches to the recruits to the returning players. There's just a lot of moving parts now, and it's very difficult to navigate. So I think that's one of the hardest things. I think indecision in any field is frustrating, and it takes a lot of bandwidth. And so I think that's the part I least like about the job, is that it's just always changing. It's always changing. And yeah, so I think that's one of the most frustrating parts of it there.
You hired a new assistant coach this year, Jamie Huffman. Uh, how's he adjusting to Omaha, and how is he working out on your staff so far? Seems like a great guy.
Yeah, I would just say, sorry, just the second most frustrating thing I think about this job is just getting people to understand how awesome Omaha is. I really think that's frustrating. Like when we lose recruits, because they don't know where we're located, they haven't heard of us, things like that, compared to the experience the guys talk about when they play here. That's the most frustrating thing. Another frustrating thing is just like, man, I just know we would do so well with this player if we could get a chance to coach them and they choose another school. And then, like you said, you have the Sam Stangs and all our returning seniors. And when you get a chance to speak to those guys, just how special Omaha is, I just wish more people knew about how special our program is. So that's just wanted to put that in there too. But sorry, to talk about Jamie next. Jamie Huffman, yeah, really excited about Jamie. Through the interview process, his name kept coming up and coming up and coming up. And we had kind of talked about potentially, as we mentioned earlier, with all the indecision and the changing landscape, just having somebody that can coach, but also really take the lead on the recruiting coordination of things. And, longtime NHL guy, guys like Johnny Rosso and some really big time agents that I really value their opinion could not say enough things, positive things about Jamie. And I had known him too from seeing him in the rinks and interacting. He's one of those guys that constantly kept in touch, and obviously was at the NHL level, but just did the things the right way. And you could just tell he's kind of just a salt of the earth from Des Moines, which I love too. So really understands the Midwest and just how special Omaha is. So yeah, he's been a tremendous addition. He's going to be around quite a bit early on with us a little bit too, just to get to know our players, just the level of play. And then he'll be on the road a lot too, looking at recruits and potential recruits and committed recruits and helping out with that evaluation process as well.
So fans probably won't see him on the bench a whole lot when we get into the season, it sounds like.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe when he's at home games, he might watch from up top a little bit too. Just, that's where he kind of evaluates the game from on the road, so he can really get a feel for that. And then probably get on the bench for a couple of periods as well, though, too, just to, I think it's such a different perspective from the second level compared to on the ice. And so I think he likes to take both of those in. So I think he was on the bench last for the third period there against Air Force, and but he'll be on the road a lot as well too.
I think last one for me, John. So we'll get coach on to more important things here. But we've asked a lot of questions kind of from the fan perspective, getting to know you more, getting to know the team more, expectations for the season and stuff. But I'm curious from you, from your coaching staff, from the players on the ice and stuff. What do you want to see from fans this season? What are you excited for from the base coming into this year?
Yeah, I love the fan support. I'm fortunate to know a lot of people in the community there, and we just have a lot of supporters, a lot of people asking how can they help. Whether that's through just support of showing up and cheering, whether that's cheering us when things are well, supporting us when you're facing some adversity. There's obviously tremendous donors here as well too that help us out financially. So I think just keep showing up and just keep cheering on the guys and supporting us. And I always like it when Baxter's rock, and I think just obviously the exhibition game was fantastic turnout for the exhibition game, and even the second half of last year it just got so crowded in the building. It's so neat. I think when it gets that loud, you don't get tired out there. And so I think that's pretty awesome. And I'd love us to keep working on some chants maybe, or do some cool things too. I think we have such a great fan base. It'd be great to get some special traditions going here too, which is kind of neat. And the student section was packed. So again, just the support we get from the students and from you guys and from the community, it's fantastic. And I think that's something we try to really educate our recruits and current players on. I know our guys were at the Durham Museum on Sunday. They're at the Children's Hospital on Wednesday. We had the skate with the Mavs. We had an alumni function on Monday night. So just really trying to get more people we get around our guys. I think the more people fall in love with our team and our players. So always looking for opportunities for them to interact with the players for sure.
Mm.
I have one more for you, Mike, and then we'll let you go. But what one word would you use to describe yourself and why? When I was a journalism major at UNO, this was one of my favorite questions to ask. So I'll put you on the spot here. What one word would you use to describe yourself and why?
Man, that's a good question. That's a tough one to talk about yourself, I think, too, sometimes. But yeah, I think I've gotten calmer, and that's a superpower. I think sometimes when you the pure calm. I remember Jared Bednar, who coached me in pro, and I really admired, done good things. I think the fan base gets mad at him there for not blowing up more often in Colorado. I don't know if that's true or not, but I remember hearing that, and I remember hearing Jocko Williams, who's this Navy SEAL, and he was, saying, showing anger or frustration is a weakness, right? So I think just the ability to be calm, take a breath. I find like if you would have known me maybe a little bit younger, I was a little bit more of a snapshot coach, and most of the time you regret it after the fact of being yelling at somebody or blowing up on somebody, and I find athletes nowadays can't take it as easily too. The damage is not as easily repaired too. So I think it's a superpower at times of stress, of frustration, of maybe even just intensity too, just to remain calm and try to think and react the best version of yourself or react to the situation at hand. So I'm proud of myself for growing in that. And I know sometimes it comes off as stoic or he doesn't care or things like that. But I think it's a superpower if you can master it and not let your intensity drop or your standard drop any bit, and the accountability stays high. If you can still do those things, I think it's a superpower.
You talked a lot about teaching. Do you feel that that's kind of one of those things that you impart then on the team? Your calmness on the bench maybe, keeps them fairly even kill in some of the ups and downs that come in a game.
Yeah, we were just at a captain's meeting today with our guys and talking about like, just the wave of hockey isn't just you're not gonna be able to stay up here during a game. You're gonna get scored on. Potentially you're gonna have a bad penalty call against you, and how you react to that's gonna dictate, how you respond to that. I should say is going to dictate the outcome of that. We talk a lot about E plus R equals O. E is the event, and then R is your response, is going to dictate the outcome, which is the O, right? And you don't control the event, and you don't control the outcome, or we win every game and we would never put ourselves through adversity. So all you control is your R, right? So we really talk about how to respond to, situations, whether it's a good thing and you want to keep that momentum going, whether it's some adversity, how do you respond to that? So I think I've just found myself in the past, if we have a bad call and I blow up on the ref or I get super emotional, we just give the team an excuse to underperform, right? We're getting screwed. So now we have the excuse, hey, we're getting screwed. Oh, we're getting screwed. So they score. Oh, the ref screwed us, where it's been dealt now, right, to us. We can't control that. So no excuses. We got to go get the job done, whatever that task is at hand. So I do feel your team will take on your persona at times there too. And I think it's good to show emotion at times too, right? Hey, celebrate. I love when our guys celebrate, man. I love when our guys show juice for each other and celebrate. And once in a while, I'll punch Coach Nobrene in the arm if I get too excited, but I try to stay calm. But I think that's good too. So you don't want to show no emotion, but I think, you want to make sure you respond appropriately to the situation at hand.
Well, Mike, it has been a pleasure talking with you today, and we wish you all the best on the upcoming season. It's about to get underway here. It's about to get exciting.
Yeah. No, well, like I said, appreciate you guys, all the support and the kind words and all that good stuff there, and appreciate all you guys do for our program as well.
Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us here and talk to us. It was, for me at least, very insightful, and I'm sure our listeners share that same sentiment. So, yes, very much thank you for taking the time joining us here.
You bet. Well, we'll see you this weekend.
You will. Take care.
Right, go
Thanks,
Mavs.
Coach.
All right.
Go Mavs.
Go Mavs.
See ya. Bye for now.
So, Jason, we just got done having a great conversation with Coach Mike Gabinet. Lots of words of wisdom there from the coach.
It's what you expect from a coach, right? A lot of that intensity, that knowledge base. He's he's a really good guy. It really goes to show kind of where the program's come, and what his philosophy and approach is to the game. So a lot of really good information there. And for me, I think that the biggest thing was hearing him at the end talk about the fan base and how important that is to Omaha hockey and the performance on the ice. And our fans are obviously well aware they're some of the biggest and loudest and best supporters in Baxter Arena every week. And so just hearing him say how much he appreciates all of us, I think is pretty cool for everyone.
there are so many changes going on right now in collegiate athletics. It's got to be a difficult row to hoe for coaches around NCAA athletics. So it was interesting to get a little bit of insight on some of these players who are now eligible from Canada who weren't before. I think it was something like 1,600 plus players who are eligible because of the decision about major junior hockey players in the CHL in Canada being eligible this season for the first time. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely interesting, but yeah, great to hear about his background. I love the little football anecdotes. I remember from back when he was a player that he had played football and was a quarterback. So it's kind of cool that he chose Nebraska in a way because of that football connection with UNL down in Lincoln. So neat that he ended up coming here to play hockey, and neat that he's the head coach going into his ninth season. Certainly, we're excited about the team's prospects this season. Are excited to dive in.
I think that the exhibition was a good taste and wetted our whistle a little bit. But yeah, a lot of excitement. And you mentioned the uncertainty. Coach mentioned it in the interview. I think that is something for fans to realize is how difficult that is for the staff at Omaha, including the head coach, and I'm sure that that's part of the reason why he brought on the new coach and made such a commitment to the recruiting process is that uncertainty. We don't have contracts with these kids. We don't know that they're going to be here for X number of years or anything. So this may be his one chance to coach some of these players.
We've seen a lot of programs around college hockey bringing in somebody to be in charge and solely focused on recruiting. So I think it's a very, very important thing. We certainly saw that this offseason with North Dakota bringing in Bryn Chiswick to be the general manager of recruiting. So great to hear from him. We're very thankful that he participated on this podcast. And the reason we're able to do podcasts is because of viewers and listeners like you, those founding members. If you would like to become a founding member and support what we're doing here on the Mavpuckcast and at mavpuck.com, be sure to visit mavpuck.com/join. And we also have to thank our new sponsor this season, Wahoo Distillery. We've talked about them quite a bit through the first 3 episodes of our podcast this season, Jason.
Yeah. And just like our founding members, they're a key reason why we can keep doing this and keep putting out this content and getting interviews with Coach. We've got a lot of big plans for this season. And, hopefully we have a lot of good results on the ice to kind of go with it. And, a good result on the ice deserves a good whiskey. And that's what Wahoo Distillery puts out. So it's a match made in heaven, let's say.
Absolutely right. And if you'd like to learn more about what Wahoo Distillery offers, visit wahoodistillery.com. But until next time, Jason, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.